Myra Selim arrived at Altair Interstellar Academy on a quiet morning, carrying only a small bag and a folded acceptance letter. She stepped out of the shuttle slowly, as if her feet were unsure they belonged on this new world. Her posture was small, her shoulders slightly bent, her eyes lowered. To anyone passing by, she looked like a nervous first-year student who had accidentally walked into the wrong school. In a way, the academy made her appear even smaller. The campus was huge, tall, silver structures curved like blades, wide plazas full of bright holographic signs. Students from a dozen different species walking in confident steps. Mira moved with gentle, careful motions, like someone afraid of being seen. Several students noticed her immediately, and not in a kind way. "Look at the human girl," Tall Vornian whispered to his friend, his voice carrying easily in the open courtyard. "She looks like she'll cry if someone bumps into her." "Humans are delicate," his friend replied, shrugging. "Maybe she's lost. She doesn't look like academy material." Mira heard every word. She always heard everything. But she kept her eyes low and continued walking. Inside the main hall, the academy's welcoming ceremony was already in progress. New cadets gathered around a huge central hologram that displayed the academy's motto: strength through unity, victory through knowledge. Myra stood at the back, where no one would notice her. She preferred it that way. She did not want eyes on her, not from students, not from instructors, not from anyone. But even in the shadows, she felt the weight of glances. The aliens found her quietness strange. Humans usually talked more, moved more, reacted more. But Mira stayed calm and still, like someone who had practiced disappearing. When the ceremony ended, students rushed toward their first orientation tasks. Groups formed instantly. Mira tried to step aside, giving space to everyone, but this only made her stand out more. A trio of students, 2 Larathians, and 1 human boy stopped near her. "You're the transfer, right?" the Lurathian girl asked. Her long, fin-like ears twitched with curiosity. "Why do you walk like that? Are you scared of something?" "No," Mira said softly. "I just don't want to disturb anyone." This answer made the group exchange looks disturb. "You barely even speak," the boy said, a smirk on his face. "Relax. We don't bite." But the smirk wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile that said, "You're different. And that's funny to us." Myra simply nodded and stepped away. She did not want conflict. She never wanted conflict. Her first class was combat theory and unfortunate start for someone who wished to go unnoticed. The instructor, Commander Rix, was a tall, armored being whose voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "Cadets," he boomed, "this academy trains the protectors of tomorrow. You will learn strategy, discipline, and the art of survival. No weakness is tolerated here." Several students glanced at Mira when he said weakness. She pretended not to see. The lesson involved reviewing battle simulations from past interstellar conflicts. Mira sat near the far corner, far from the center. But even in the corner, she couldn't relax. Every time someone entered or left the room, her head turned slightly. Every time a hologram flickered, her eyes sharpened. She sat close to the wall. Close to the exit, close to escape. Commander Rix noticed. "Cadet Selim," said suddenly. Mira froze. "You selected a seat directly aligned with the door." He tapped a claw against the desk. "For tactical reasons?" Mira hesitated before answering. I like sitting where I can see the room clearly." Some students snickered. One whispered, "She wants to run." But Commander Rix said nothing more. He only narrowed his eyes at her as if trying to understand something she was hiding after class. The academy assigned cadets to dorm groups. Myra ended up in a shared sector with 6 others. The moment she entered the room, conversation stopped. "Oh," one student said flatly. "It's her." Mira bowed her head politely. "I hope I won't cause trouble." "You won't," a sharp-voiced Vornian girl replied. "Because we don't expect anything from you." The comment was not cruel on the surface, but its meaning was clear. They saw her as weak, quiet, and unimportant. Someone who wouldn't stand out, wouldn't shine, wouldn't achieve anything. Mira unpacked silently. Just a few clothes, a data pad, and a small silver pendant shaped like a crescent arc. It was the only item she touched gently, almost with emotion. "Where are your other things?" a Lorathian boy asked. "Humans usually bring a lot of stuff. I travel light," Mira replied. "Or maybe you don't have much," the Vornian girl said with a smirk. Mira didn't argue. She simply placed her pendant inside the drawer and organized the rest neatly. Their next scheduled task was a physical assessment. Students lined up in the academy's main training arena, a giant hall filled with platforms climbing walls. And durability tracks, it was the perfect place for the confident to show off. It was the perfect place for the quiet to be mocked. The first test involved a simple sprint. When Myra's turn arrived, she ran lightly, not too fast, not too slow, just enough to seem average. But even her average speed drew comments. "She runs like she's floating," one cadet muttered. "Is she even trying?" "Humans are slow," another laughed. "Let her be." Next came strength testing. Mira lifted the lowest weight class without trouble, then stopped. She didn't touch the higher levels. "See?" the Vornian girl whispered loudly. "She's useless in combat." Even some instructors glanced at Mira with disappointment. No one expected greatness from her. No one thought she had potential. They only saw a shy human girl, too timid to push herself. But Mira wasn't refusing to push herself. She was restraining herself. Every movement she made was careful, measured, tightly controlled. She moved like someone afraid of revealing too much. During the final assessment, something unexpected happened. Cadets were required to dodge a set of low-intensity stun drones that fired harmless beams. The goal was to test reaction speed. Most students dodged clumsily at first. The drones weren't fast, but they were unpredictable. When Mira stepped into the arena, the drones activated with a metallic buzz. A beam shot toward her straight at her face. For a brief moment, her body reacted before her mind could stop it. She tilted her head with perfect timing, too perfect. She moved with a smooth, silent precision that belonged to someone trained far beyond. Academy level, the movement was so fast that several cadets blinked. Unsure if they saw it correctly, Mira instantly slowed down, letting the next beam graze her sleeve. She forced her reactions to appear clumsy. But it was too late, Commander. Rix's eyes sharpened. The Vornian girl frowned, and one student whispered, "Wait." That wasn't normal. Mira stepped out of the arena quickly, hoping no one paid attention. She avoided the instructor's gaze and returned to her place. But she knew someone had noticed. Someone always noticed. Later that evening, dinner in the academy hall was loud and bright. Students talked about their training scores, their home planets, their hopes of joining elite forces. Mira sat at the far end of a table, eating quietly. She didn't lift her head once, but she could feel eyes on her. "Why does she sit like that?" a Lurthian asked loudly. "Like she's preparing to disappear?" "She's scared," another said. "Humans are emotional. I heard humans break down easily. I heard they freeze up in real danger." Mira lowered her spoon. None of the rumors were true. None of these students knew what humans were capable of, not truly. And they definitely didn't know what she was capable of. She wasn't scared. She was tired. She wanted peace. She wanted quiet. She wanted a life where she didn't have to fight, didn't have to survive, didn't have to do the things she used to do. But the universe never let her rest for long. After dinner, she returned to her dorm. The hallway was dim, lit only by soft blue lights. Mira walked slowly, her hands in her pockets, her steps silent. Just before she reached her door, she stopped. A faint sound metal scraping echoed down the hall. No one else reacted. But Mira's eyes narrowed slightly. She waited. The sound came again. It was coming from the maintenance corridor. Most students would have walked away. Most students wouldn't even hear it. But Myra listened. She analyzed. She calculated something was wrong. She took one slow step toward the corridor, then stopped herself. No, she couldn't get involved. She promised herself she wouldn't draw attention. She promised she wouldn't return to old habits. She forced herself to turn away. But as she walked into her room, She whispered under her breath, "It's starting again, isn't it?" The shy girl no one noticed had noticed something. Something the Academy was not ready for. Something that would soon reveal the truth she tried so hard to hide. And when that truth came out, no one would ever mock her again. Morning at Altair Interstellar Academy always began with noise students rushing to classes, hoverboards humming in hallways, and announcements ringing from every corner. But Mira Selim woke before all of that. She always rose before dawn. When the sky outside the Academy's shield dome was still dark and peaceful, she sat up slowly in her bunk, careful not to make any sound. Her roommates were asleep, breathing softly. Mira moved like a shadow, quiet and smooth, as if she had trained for years to avoid waking others. She washed her face, tied her hair, and put on her standard Academy uniform. Nothing special, nothing flashy. She wanted to blend in, but today, like every day since she arrived, she felt the weight of the Academy watching her students, staring, instructors judging, whispers following her. And deep inside, she sensed something else too. A pattern, a strange, an uncomfortable pattern that didn't belong in a peaceful school. She stepped outside her dorm, walked down the hallway, and felt it against something in the atmosphere, subtle but clear. A tension, like threads pulling in different directions. Most people would never notice it, but Mira did. Her first class was simulation strategy. The instructor, Professor Tellin, was a small, four-eyed Delvian with a calm personality and a sharp mind. Students liked him because he explained things clearly and never raised his voice. Today, activated a large hologram in the middle of the classroom, displaying a map of a real battlefield from decades ago. Ships, markers, troop paths, all moved slowly in bright lines. Today, Professor Tellin announced, "You will analyze this conflict and find the key decision that changed its outcome." Students gasped with excitement. Strategic battles were always fun, except for Mira. She kept her eyes lowered, pretending to study the hologram at the same speed as everyone else. But in reality, she understood the battle instantly. Her mind traced every movement, every tactic, every flaw. She saw hidden ambushes, predicted enemy rotations, and recognized coded formation patterns. Most cadets would never notice. She saw all of it in the first 10 seconds, but she forced herself to slow down. She took small notes. She drew simple lines. She made mistakes on purpose. Professor Tellin walked through the rows, observing. When he passed Mira, he paused. Her notes were slow, uneven, but her eyes, they scanned the hologram too quickly. Professor Tellin narrowed his four eyes thoughtfully. "Cadet Selim," he said, "do you find the simulation difficult?" Mira shook her head gently. "No, sir. I'm just trying to understand it." Her voice was soft, almost fragile. But the professor wasn't convinced. "There is no need to rush," he said kindly. She nodded. In truth, she wasn't rushing at all. She was holding back far more than he could imagine. During the group discussion period, Mira joined a table where 3 cadets were already arguing. "We need to defend this sector," the Vornian girl insisted. "That makes no sense," a Lurathian boy replied. "The enemy clearly planned to strike here." "You're both wrong," the human boy argued loudly. The key moment was when the commander, he cut himself off when he noticed Mira standing there. "Oh, it's her," he said. "The quiet one." The others exchanged amused expressions. "You can sit," the Larithian boy sighed. "But don't expect us to wait for your slow ideas." Mira simply took a seat. She listened as they argued loudly, each trying to sound smarter than the other. They pointed, debated, complained. Finally, the Vornian girl turned to Mira. "What do you think?" she asked casually. "Or do humans freeze up when thinking too?" Mira blinked. She wanted to stay silent, but the professor was watching, so she gave a small, simple answer. "The battle changed when the enemy moved their second fleet behind the nebula," she said softly. Everything after that was a distraction. The table went silent. The cadets stared at her. "How did you?" the human boy began. "That movement is hidden," Larathian stammered. "You can barely see it unless you zoom the hologram and study." It for a long time. Mira looked down at her hands. I just noticed it. The Vornian girl narrowed her eyes. Are you pretending to be shy but secretly a genius? She asked, half joking but half serious. Mira shook her head quickly. No, I just got lucky. But no one fully believed her. Another pattern had emerged, one she didn't want anyone to notice. After class, Mira walked alone across the academy bridge that crossed a long water channel. The water shimmered under the artificial sunlight, reflecting bright patterns of blue and white. Students chatted loudly while passing her, but she stayed silent. Lost in her thoughts, she noticed things others didn't. The academy felt too tense. Security patrols were doubling. Certain areas were locked earlier than the usual. Maintenance robots moved in unusual routes. Something was changing. Mira didn't want to think about it, but her instincts refused to quiet down. Her senses had become sharp long ago. During a life she had promised herself she would leave behind. She stopped near the railing and stared at the water. Please, she whispered. Don't let anything happen here. Not again. But her wish felt small in the vast academy. Later in the day, students gathered in the large simulation arena for combat training. The moment Mira entered, she felt uncomfortable. The arena was loud, full of students eager to show off. She took her usual place at the far edge. The instructor activated the simulation platform today, he announced. You will test your combat reflexes against holographic attackers. Students cheered. Mira sighed. She hated this part. Not because she was bad at it, but because she was too good. And good was dangerous. When her turn arrived, she stepped onto the platform quietly. The holographic attackers appeared, 3 glowing figures with simple weapons. A normal student would dodge slowly or awkwardly. Mira forced herself to move clumsily, but then one of the holograms glitched. Its movement pattern changed unexpectedly. It lunged faster than the simulation was designed to allow, and Mira reacted. Her body moved with perfect timing. She turned, blocked the hit, and stepped back in one smooth motion, a motion she had practiced hundreds of times. A motion no normal cadet could do. Gasps erupted. The instructor frowned. The simulation paused. Mira Selim, he said slowly. Where did you learn that technique? Her heart raced. She bowed her head. I just moved. It felt natural. That was not natural, he replied. Students whispered. Did you see that? She's hiding something. Humans aren't that fast. She part machine? Mira stepped off the platform and walked away quickly, wishing she could vanish. During lunch, she sat alone again. She barely touched her food. She just stared at her hands, remembering how they moved without her. Permission. She had controlled her strength. She had controlled her speed, but she had not controlled her. Instinct. An instinct betrayed her. Hey, a voice said. Mira looked. Yupe, tall Zethary male, stood beside her table. He wasn't mocking. He wasn't smirking. His expression was curious too. Curious. I saw your simulation, he said. Mira looked down again. It was a mistake, maybe, he replied. But I've seen that move before. On a classified battlefield recording, her breath caught. He leaned closer. Who are you really? Mira stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her tray. I'm no one, she said, her voice trembling. Please, don't ask questions. The Zethari watched her leave, suspicion growing in his eyes. Another pattern, another problem, another secret slipping loose that evening. Mira returned to her dorm, feeling drained. She closed the door gently and sat on her bed, hugging her knees. She didn't want this life again, the life of running, hiding, fighting, surviving, but the academy was pulling her back into it. She sensed it everywhere. Strange activity, strange movements, strange eyes watching her. She tried to calm herself. She breathed slowly, but then faint sound vibrated through the air. Not a natural sound, a digital one. Someone was accessing. Restricted Academy networks. Mira froze. Her instincts sharpened. She turned on her datapad. Silently, lines of encrypted data flashed across the screen. The Academy system was running a search, a deep search, a search for records. Connected to an old name, a name Myra hoped had been erased. Selim. Unit-7, her old designation, her past. Someone was digging for. It's someone inside the Academy. Mira closed her eyes. Her hands trembled. The pattern was becoming clearer. Something big was coming. Something dangerous. Something connected to her. She whispered to herself, "They're looking for me. But why now?" She placed her hand over her pendant. She wished she could disappear, but patterns don't disappear. They grow. And this one was about to reveal truths she had tried so hard to bury. Very soon, someone at the Academy would uncover her secret. And when they did, nothing would ever be the same again. Night at Altair Interstellar Academy was usually calm. The sky above the shield dome always glowed with a gentle silver color, and the halls became quiet after lights out. Students slept, instructors relaxed, security drones moved slowly on their usual paths. But on this night, Myra Selim felt something wrong before anyone else. She sat on her bed, staring at her datapad, pretending to read. Her roommates were asleep, their breathing steady. The room was dark, except for the soft glow from Myra's screen, then a vibration, soft, barely noticeable, a tremor in the Academy's power grid. Her eyes widened. That tremor did not belong to any routine system. It was the sign of a forced entry. Bypass. Someone was breaking in, not through doors, not through windows, but through the Academy's shielding system itself. She stood up slowly, careful not to make a sound. She crossed the room and pressed her hand against the wall. Another vibration, a deeper one. She recognized its rhythm, a military-grade infiltration technique. Her pulse increased. "They found me across the Academy." Alarms stayed silent. No security bot moved faster. No instructor woke up, because whoever was breaking in knew how to avoid detection. Mira listened closely. Step, step, step. She heard them before they entered the building. 5. No. 6 infiltrators, heavy boots, metal armor, weapons. With magnetic clamps, she knew the pattern. They were trained, they were dangerous, and they were here for her. She felt fear. Yes, but mostly exhaustion. She didn't want to fight. She didn't want this life, but she also knew she could not let her roommates or any students be harmed. She reached into her drawer and opened it. Silently, inside was the small silver pendant she always kept hidden. She closed her hand around it. For a moment, she let herself breathe. Then she moved. Her feet made no sound as she stepped into the hallway. It was dim, lit only by the emergency nightlights. The Academy felt different, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then she heard metal sliding. The infiltrators had reached the first main corridor. Mira inhaled slowly. Calming her heartbeat, at the corner of the hall, she dropped to the floor. Flattening her body like a trained operative, a shadow moved. A tall, armored figure stepped into view, scanning the hall using a silent visor. The enemy wore black exo-armor, each movement cold and precise. Target located in Sector D9. Voice whispered through their CUM device. Sector D-9. Her dorm. Myra waited when the soldier stepped forward. She reached out and pulled him into the darkness with one swift, silent motion. He didn't even have time to shout. She disabled him quickly, placing him on the floor in a controlled position so the armor would not make noise. She stepped over him and moved deeper into the Academy. The next 2 infiltrators reached the training wing. Mira moved behind them silently. Her footsteps invisible. One turned, sensing something. "Did you hear?" Mira struck. One precise hit, then another. Both Soldiers collapsed with muffled thuds there. Masked visors flickered and went dark. She took one of their magnetic clamps and attached it to the emergency panel on the wall. The device disabled a portion of the hallway lights, giving her more shadows to move through. Her mind remained calm. She had done this before too, many times, but she hated that she remembered every motion. Meanwhile, across the academy, the security system continued to show everything as normal because Mira had taken down the infiltrators without triggering any sensors. She reached the central hallway, her eyes scanning every angle. 2 more infiltrators stood near the holomap table. Looking at a glowing display of the academy layout, the human asset should be close, one whispered. Our readings show she is unarmed and weak. Weak, Mira almost smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. She stepped forward. Her movements were silent and fast. The first soldier didn't even sense her until her hand struck him across the helmet, shutting down his visor. The second turned in. Shock, Mira leaped forward. A precise kick. A twist. A disabling strike. He fell instantly, Mira exhaled. 5 down. 1 left. The last infiltrator was moving toward the dorms, toward her roommates. She sprinted, not with fear, not with panic, but with controlled urgency. Her feet barely touched the floor. Her breath stayed steady. Her eyes focused on the movement of shadows. Then she heard it, a faint door click. Her dorm room. She arrived in seconds. The enemy soldier had opened the door halfway and was stepping inside. Mira grabbed him by the back of his armor and pulled him out in one fluid motion. He struggled and reached for his weapon. She hit his arm with a sharp movement. The weapon dropped. He swung at her. She ducked. He tried again. She turned, stepped inside his guard, and struck his chest plate. The armor's power core flickered. He fell. Mira caught him before he hit the ground, lowering him gently so the noise wouldn't wake anyone. Then she dragged him quietly to the maintenance corridor and placed him beside the others. 6 infiltrators, all unconscious, all silent, all defeated by one shy human girl. Mira stood there in the dark corridor, breathing slowly. The academy was safe. For now, she checked the infiltrators' gear. None wore identification. Their armor design was from a distant faction one. Hostile to humans, her past, her old enemies, they had found her again. A soft fear crept into her chest, but she swallowed it. She needed to make sure no one discovered the truth. She pressed a sequence on the nearest wall panel. The system restarted the corridor's lights and reactivated dormant sensors. At every trace of her fight disappeared except for the unconscious enemy soldiers. She dragged them one by one to the supply room, dark, empty. Sci-Fi locked the door behind her. She would deal with them later, on her way back to her dorm. Mira stopped when she heard footsteps. A group of cadets walked toward her, yawning and stretching. They had no idea what happened. One spotted her. Mira. "Why are you awake?" he asked. "It's the middle of the night." She gave a small, shy smile. "Couldn't sleep. Humans are weird." The group walked away. Mira waited until they disappeared. Then she returned to her room. Her roommates slept peacefully. Unaware of the danger that almost reached them, she lay down slowly, pulling the blanket over herself. Her breathing was shallow. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the realization that she could no longer hide. The academy would soon know something happened. Someone would investigate. Someone would ask questions. And Myra Selim quiet. Shy. Invisible would not be invisible anymore, she whispered into the darkness. It has begun. Again, Myra sat quietly in the small waiting room, her hands folded on her lap. The room was cold, bright, and so silent that she could hear the faint hum of the academy's ventilation system. She did not look nervous, but she did not look calm either. She simply looked tired, like someone who had spent too long running from something she never wanted to face again. 2 guards stood by the door, pretending not to stare at her, but their curiosity showed in their eyes. Everyone at the academy had heard the rumors by now, rumors that Mira Selim was not what she appeared to be. The shy girl who kept her voice soft, who avoided conflict, who bowed her head when spoken to. Apparently had fought a hidden battle last night that none of them had seen. The instructors wanted answers, and Mira knew she could no longer hide. The door slid open with a sharp hiss. Instructor Thalin stepped out, his long silver hair tied neatly behind his back. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a weight that Mira recognized. He already knew something, and he was piecing the rest together. "Mira," he said simply, "they are ready for you." She nodded and stood up. Her steps were soft, but the guards straightened their posture as she passed them. Even her quiet footsteps felt different now, like every movement carried a story no one understood. The interrogation chamber was not dark or frightening. It was clean and bright, with a single round table at the center and several high-ranking academy officials seated around it. A holographic projector floated above the table. Waiting for activation, Mira took the empty seat. Commander Ryan, the academy's head officer, leaned forward with his fingers interlocked. "Mira Selim," he began in a steady voice, "your performance last night raises several questions. There were 9 enemy infiltrators on campus, all found unconscious. Security cams in your area were disabled. Energy traces match close-quarters combat, but no weapons were used. We know you were there." He paused. "And we know you were the one who stopped them." The room fell quiet. All eyes focused on the shy girl. Mira lowered her gaze. She spoke in her usual soft tone, but there was no trembling. "I did what was necessary." Instructor Thalen folded his arms. "That is not the problem. The problem is how you did it. You moved like someone with advanced training. You handled 9 armed enemies without alerting anyone. Students like you do not simply do that." Mira remained silent. Commander Ryan tapped a panel on the table. The hologram flashed to life, displaying a sealed military document. Thick red lines of encryption covered it. "We opened a restricted archive," he said slowly. "Your identity came up on a classified list." The hologram cleared. Designation: Selim Unit 7. Status: Retired Human Vanguard Operative Operations completed. 42 confirmed. Neutralized 3 enemy warlords during the Orion conflict. Mira did not flinch. She simply breathed out slowly, like someone who knew this moment was coming. "Is this you?" Commander Ryan asked. Mira nodded once. "Yes." Gasps filled the room. Instructor Thalen stepped back in disbelief. "A Vanguard? You were part of the Human Special Defense Program, one that only exists in rumors." Mira whispered softly. "I was not supposed to be found." Her voice was calm, but her eyes revealed the weight she carried. They pressed on. "Why hide? Why come here? What are you running from?" Mira lifted her head. For the first time since entering the academy, she looked every person in the room directly in the eye. "I was tired," she said. "Humans are strong, yes. Brave, yes. But even strength becomes heavy. After the Orion conflict ended, I left. I wanted a quiet life. I wanted to be a normal student, even if only for a short time." Her voice trembled slightly. "I am not shy because I fear people. I am shy because peace feels strange to me. I do not know how to live without looking for exits or listening for enemies in the walls." Commander Ryan leaned back slowly. "So you pretended to be average?" "I did not pretend," Mira said gently. "I wanted to be average." The room softened for a moment. Even the officers who had been strict now looked at her with a quiet sympathy. But the interview was not over. Commander Ryan projected another hologram, the face of the enemy commander. "Who launched the infiltration?" "This man demanded you be handed over," he said. "Why would an enemy fleet want a retired operative so badly?" Mira looked away. "They fear me." Her voice was soft, but the truth behind it was heavy. "When I fought in the Orion conflict, I made choices that ended empires. I completed missions no one else wanted. I did what humans do when pushed we survive and we do not break. She paused, but that also means I made enemies. Instructor Thalen asked, You think they tracked you here? Yes, Mira answered. And they will come again. Last night was only a test. Everyone in the room stiffened. Commander Ryan spoke firmly. Mira, we cannot ignore this. You put the Academy at risk by hiding your past? Mira lowered her ear. She expected punishment, maybe expulsion, maybe confinement. She was used to consequences, but then something unexpected happened. Instructor Thalen placed a hand on the table and leaned closer. What you did last night saved lives, he said. The Academy could have lost students. Instead, you handled everything without a single injury. Commander Ryan nodded. You acted alone, not because you wanted to, but because you thought it would keep others safe. That is what a protector does. Myra's eyes widened slightly. You are not in trouble, Ryan continued, but we need to prepare. If your enemies return, the Academy must defend itself. Myra swallowed. They will return. The officers exchanged looks, and when they do, Commander Ryan said, We will stand with you. Mira blinked slowly. With me. Yes, Instructor, Thalen said. You are not alone anymore. For a long moment, Mira did not speak. She rarely showed emotion, but now her eyes softened with something fragile, something she had buried for a long time. Trust. The meeting ended. Guards escorted her out, but they were no longer tense. They looked at her with respect, a new kind of fear, yes, but not the mocking kind. It was the fear soldiers had for someone who earned honor the hard way. As Mira walked through the Academy halls, whispers followed her again. But these whispers were different. She took down 9 infiltrators alone. Is she really a vanguard? She doesn't look dangerous, but she saved us. Some students stepped aside to let her pass. Others stared, unsure whether to greet her or bow. Mira did not react. She kept walking, her eyes on the floor. She did not like attention. But she knew running was no longer possible. When she entered her dorm room, she sat on her bed and exhaled deeply. The truth was out. And with the truth came danger. Outside the Academy, the stars shimmered silently. One of those stars flickered strangely. It's an enemy ship waiting in the darkness, watching, preparing. Mira looked out the window and whispered to herself, They will come for me, and I will not run. But for the first time in years, she did not feel alone. The Academy knew who she was now. And soon, the enemy would know that she was not a lone fighter anymore. The real battle had not started yet. But it was coming. The sky above Altair, interstellar. Academy glowed with a muted silver light, just like every other evening. But the calm was an illusion. Deep in orbit, sensors detected movement. Enemy fleet had appeared beyond the Academy's shield perimeter. The fleet was small, fast, and deadly. They had not forgotten Myra Selim. They had not forgiven her. Inside the Academy, alarms sounded. Students and instructors moved quickly, heading to their stations. The Academy had protocols for intruders, but none could predict the human girl at its center. Mira stood in the command center, her eyes scanning the holographic display. The enemy ships were advanced, sleek, and deadly, their weapons capable of destroying the Academy if given a chance. But she was not afraid. Not fully. Not anymore. Commander Ryan turned to her. Mira, they are demanding surrender. They want the Vanguard operative delivered, or they will fire. Myra's gaze did not waver. They won't get me. Ryan nodded. Then we fight. But we fight smart. And we fight together. She felt a strange warmth. For the first time, she did not feel alone. The Academy was no longer a place to hide. It was a place to defend, and she would defend it with all she had. The cadets gathered in the simulation hall, now turned into a command hub. Everyone was assigned a role. The alien cadets looked nervous, but determined, each bringing their unique skills to the defense plan. Mira stood in the center, quietly giving instructions. Her calmness surprised everyone. Divide into 2 groups, she said softly but firmly. One group covers the main shield generator. The other sets up interception for incoming ships. I will coordinate from here. Students followed her directions without question. They trusted her, even if they did not fully understand why. A Lurathian cadet, tall and muscular, approached her. You really fought before? He asked quietly. Yes, Mira said simply. And I will do it again if necessary. The cadet nodded, swallowing his doubt. Outside, the enemy ships closed in, their engines humming with power. On board, the enemy commander spoke to his crew. Prepare for assault. The human operative is strong, but alone. She will not survive our full attack. The crew did not question him. They believed the rumors, but they did not know the truth. Myra was never alone. Back in the academy, Myra projected a holographic display of the enemy fleet. Each movement, each position, each potential attack route was analyzed. Her instincts, honed over years of conflict, guided her every decision. She spoke to the cadets. Watch their movements carefully. Do not act on instinct alone. Use strategy. Use our advantage. They nodded, though fear was visible in their eyes. The first strike came suddenly. Its laser beams tore through the atmosphere above, crashing into the outer shield. Alarms blared. Students ducked. Instructors shouted. But Mira remained calm. She tapped a few keys, adjusting the Academy's defense grid in real time. Redirect energy to shield emitters 2 and 3, she commanded. All cadets fall into defensive positions. Her voice, though soft, carried authority. The students moved as one unit, following her directions perfectly. One alien cadet, known for his pride, faltered. A beam came close to his head. Mira leaped forward instinctively, grabbing him by the arm and pulling him to safety. She did not hesitate. You will survive, she whispered, before returning to her post. The enemy fired again, this time trying to disable the Academy's communication hub. Mira anticipated the attack and activated a countermeasure. The lasers were absorbed harmlessly by the shield. Her classmates stared in awe. She's controlling everything, a student whispered. Yes, another replied. It's like she's everywhere at once. In orbit, the enemy fleet regrouped. It expected a weak human operative. Instead, they faced a coordinated defense stronger than anything they had prepared for. Mira studied their movements. She noticed a pattern a moment when the enemy would attempt to bypass the shield by splitting their fleet. They'll try to go around the north sector, she said calmly, pointing at the hologram. Lorethians and Zathari take intercept. Humans and Vornians reinforce the shield. Everyone else, be ready to adapt. The cadets moved without hesitation, trusting her strategy. The enemy advanced. Ships split, as Myra predicted. The north sector was vulnerable, but she had anticipated it. Cadets positioned their weighted quietly. As the first enemy ship approached, a coordinated barrage of lasers and EMP blasts disabled the vessel's engines. It drifted harmlessly away. Mira's eyes scanned constantly. Each move, each attack, each reaction was calculated. The cadets followed her without question. Her instincts guided them. Her experience led them. Another enemy ship broke formation. Myra saw it immediately and signaled a rapid interception. A squad of cadets, combining speed and strength, blocked the ship before it could reach the shield. Her classmates were beginning to understand why she had always appeared shy. Her power was not in strength alone. It was in knowledge, perception, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. Hours passed. The enemy fleet, frustrated, began a final assault. They focused on the central shield generator. It was a gamble. If they succeeded, the Academy would be vulnerable. Mira assessed quickly. They're committing everything to the central attack. Divert shield energy to the generators in sectors 5 and 7. Keep the north sector fortified. Use triangulation and focus fire. Her orders were precise. They were executed perfectly. The enemy barrage was met with concentrated defensive measures. Shields held. Laser grids intercepted missiles. EMP blasts disabled small fighter ships. The enemy commander realized his miscalculation too late. One by one, their ships were disabled or forced to retreat. As the enemy withdrew, Mira breathed for the first time in hours. The Academy was safe. Students cheered softly. Instructors nodded in approval. For once, Mira allowed herself a small smile. Commander Ryan approached. "You did it," he said simply. "You led the defense without ever needing to show overwhelming strength. You inspired these students to act beyond their limits." Mira shook her head. "I didn't do it for glory. I did it to keep everyone safe." Dallin put a hand on her shoulder. "Then you did it perfectly."
"Our mate!"
Her classmates approached slowly. The whispers that once mocked her were replaced with admiration and curiosity. Some bowed in respect. Others looked on, unsure how to respond to someone they had underestimated for so long. For the first time, Mira felt accepted. Not because she had fought, but because she had protected. Not because she had shown strength, but because she had shown care. That night, Mira walked through the halls alone. Stars above twinkled quietly, reflecting the calm after chaos. The academy was safe, for now, but she knew the enemy had not forgotten. They would return. They always did. She stopped near the observatory window and looked out at the stars. She whispered softly to herself. Not a prayer, but a promise. I will not run. I will not hide. I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. She held her pendant tightly. It was a reminder of her past, but also of her present. She was no longer just Mira Selim, the shy girl. She was a protector. She was a leader. She was human, and humans never gave up. A faint alarm sounded in the distance, indicating a minor shield breach in a peripheral sector. Mira's eyes narrowed, but her posture remained calm. She knew what to do. She had fought before, and she